Hello everyone, welcome to Plant Group 11. The good thing about Plant Group 11, 100% of the plants are on main campus. So hopefully you've watched the location video and you've already got your samples. I've got my samples laid out before me here. And I want to go ahead and get started with the Florida Lakothia. This is your Agarista populifolia. And when you guys download your plant sheet, it's going to take you to NC State's plant database, and you'll actually get the correct pronunciation. I know I mess them up big times with the Latin names, but the computer-generated voice there on the NC State plant database does a real good job of pronouncing these names. But this is your Florida Lakothia. Got a pretty good, healthy sample here. I like this plant, I really do. It's a good filler plant. As you can see, it's planted in a spot that it doesn't really need to be there on main campus, but we used that as a plant study lab years ago, and it's just been overgrown. But this is your Florida Lakothia. And so I want you to get a good close-up of the leaf itself. As you can see there, kind of skinny and narrow. Your drooping Lakothia is a little bit bigger, but this is plant number one, Florida Lakothia. Plant number two is your drooping Lakothia, and got a nice little sample here. It's got the tassels on it, if you can see right in there, but still a skinny leaf, but a little bit longer. And this is more of a variegated leaf, and it'll get more variegated as the summer goes along, warmer temperatures. But this is more of the what they call the dog hobble, but it kind of droops down, and as you've seen there in the location video, it's right there to the right of the Almond Center, right before you go down the steps down to Hoosier Hall and the cafe. But I like this for its color, the variegated color. It's got some purple and yellow and the green in it, and it just looks really cool when these leaves are in their magnificent wonder of being, you know, mixed colors in it. So it looks really good. The yellows, the purples, and the green, it just really looks good. The variegation in it. So this is plant number two, your drooping Lakothia. Plant number three is your Ligustrum japonicum. Now, I showed you three different Ligustrums on main campus, and I have samples of each. The first one that I showed you is the curly leaf Ligustrum. Now, this is a plant that is really cool. It's real bunchy, it's real tight and compacted. As you can see, the fruit there on it, almost like a cluster of blackberries or blueberries, but really cool. These curly leaf Ligustrums that are planted on the back side of the Almond Center were butchered. I mean, they cut them down to nothing years ago, probably about 5 years ago. And now you can see the height, and they've gone in there and kind of maintained them. So they responded really well to being rejuvenated. But I wouldn't want to do that. I would want to plant them in a place to kind of let them grow their natural way. But that is the curly leaf Ligustrum for number three. The next one that I showed you was what we called just the privet. Now, this is a plant that does not respond well to growth retardants. I had a personal experience with that where I sprayed Atramac on a bunch of these privets, and I did not read the label, so that was my fault, but it killed them. So Japanese privet do not like growth retardants. They want to be left to grow alone. This plant right here grows absolutely crazy. It's uncontrollable. The quickness that it gets to its height. But as you can see, it's very similar. You know, it's going to get a little bit bigger, the leaf. You know, you got the juvenile leaves up here that are coming up on the top, but almost, you know, resembles that curly leaf Ligustrum a little bit. But that is another variety of plant number three. And then here is the last one that I saw you. It's right there on Oak Grove Road, right before you turn up to the Strickland Center. But this is the ligustrum, and you can still, it's got some remnants of the black or blueberries on it. But this is a plant that you would want to plant around your patio for the smell. I mean, it is just a wonderful fragrance to be setting out late spring, early summer, and enjoying this plant. But they're pruned on standard, meaning that they are tree form and they've got that V shape. That way you can actually sit around the patio. So one of my favorite plants to do that with, and then to plant the autolucans underneath it. So, but another variety for plant number 3. Plant number 4 is your Rhododendron Catawba, your Catawba rhododendron, and it's down there in the Hart's Garden outside of Hoosier Hall there. The best place to get to this, you know, there are some down in the Hart's Garden, but I got this sample here. Going down the steps from Almond Center down to Hoosier Hall, but a variety of colors with your Catawbanese. Probably some of the most popular are the pinks and the purples, but there is some reds and dark burgundies, and then the white. But I love rhododendron. A typical foundation plant used extensively in residential landscaping, but once you see it blooming, you'll know why. It's just a beautiful bloom, needs the shade, and just does really well here in North Carolina for foundations. It goes complementary with the azaleas that we're getting ready to look at. And just remember that, you know, azaleas is a rhododendron as well. But growing up, I always knew this to be a rhododendron and azalea to be an azalea. But they're both in the rhododendron family. But this is your Rhododendron Catawba or your Catawba rhododendron. Next, we're going to look at your indica. This one is going down the brick sidewalk, down to the bridge, into the Hart's Garden with this azalea. It's a little bit lighter color. It's almost like it's got a fuzz on it. The leaves are more narrow and slender, but this is the Indicum. One of my favorite colors of this is like the orange azalea, like a yellowish orange. Looks real pretty. You know, you won't find that in the Kurumis or the I don't believe you'll find an orange bloomer in the Gumpo azalea. So this is kind of why I like it. It's got that orangish, yellowish bloom, but still got some other varieties as well. And like I mentioned to you before, I want to show you the azalea that's right outside of my house and the rhododendron. It's two of the species that it's hard to find. The one was given to my dad when I was born by Joe Marion from Joe's Landscaping, and then one that my grandmother had you know, years ago. So, but this is plant number 5, your Rhododendron Indica or Indicum. You're going to see it, you know, spelled both ways. We will use it how it's listed on our plant sheet. The next plant is your Rhododendron ponticum, your Kurumi azalea, and I showed you there along the bank pulling into the Almond Center. I've got 2 species here. I'm hoping this is the Hershey Red. I think it's going to be a little bit darker than the Hershey Red. And then here we have the Delaware Valley White variety. But a very popular azalea here in North Carolina. Goes well with the rhododendrons themselves, the Catawbanese. So you can't go wrong planting rhododendrons and azaleas for your clients. They're going to love it for the color. Now, one of the main problems with the azaleas is that people like to get their hedge clippers out. When they have their hedge clippers out, they're already pruning them. When you prune something that's in this stage right here, as you see the buds getting ready to open up, they're cutting those buds off. And I've seen so many landscapers already turning these azaleas into basketballs instead of letting them be their natural self, and they're cutting these buds off, and their homeowners, their clients, are going to be upset that they've cut all their blooms off. So just be careful when pruning these azaleas. They need to be pruned immediately after they've bloomed and the blooms have all, you know, faded away and gone. You want to prune them immediately. That way they can go ahead and set their buds for the next year. People prune them too late in the fall, you know, early winter, the wrong thing to do. You've got to prune these immediately after blooming. So, but this is plant number 6, your Rhododendron ponticum or your Kurumi azalea. Plant number 7 is your Rhododendron ex hybridum Gunrei Sadzuki, or your Gunrei Sadzuki azalea. I call it the Gumpo azalea because that's probably the most popular variety that you're going to see of the Sadzuki. And here it's kind of a tight, compact. This is kind of a lengthy, and it lays like this. So you're going to see it kind of hover the ground, which makes it a good filler, makes it a good ground cover. You can use an azalea for a ground cover. So you see it a lot around sidewalks, and they've actually got landscape lighting sticking up through it. It looks really cool. But I love the Gumpo azalea. Multitude of colors, pinks, reds, whites. It's just a beautiful plant. When it's blooming, it is on fire. But this is your plant number 7. I call it the Gumpo azalea. And then last but not least is your Yucca filamentosa, your Adam's needle yucca. There is a number of yuccas out there, and so I went with the filamentosa. We used to just do yucca species, but I wanted to actually pinpoint one out for you. Look at the hair off of it. This one's right outside of Hoosier Hall there. The concrete steps going up from the Hearts Garden up to the cafe there. You'll see this yucca plant. I call it an old-timey plant, like I do a lot of them, because you would have seen these at your grandparents' house. They just loved having plants like this. So gets a tall flower. People will cut that flower off, but I'll leave it because it looks good when it turns brown. It's kind of like some of the ornamental grasses. It looks good when they do fade away. But this is plant number 8, your Yucca filamentosa. And thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all in the next lecture.